I am 35 and I have cystic fibrosis. Growing up, I was told I wouldn't reach 30. It's 2023, times have changed. Whilst I have bags of resilience and I've always wanted to prove people wrong, that message I received definitely had an impact on my mindset. It created a mindset that only focused on the next 12 months. I never really focused on what I wanted to do in the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So my mindset now has to shift, because the fact that I've looked after myself so well over the years and with the new medication, chances are I'm going to see 70s and I'm probably going to live into my 80s, maybe even beyond. I might even meet grandchildren, which is something I never thought would be a possibility. But things that I haven't thought about in my life and haven't needed to up until now: pension, savings, planning a family, thinking about how I might retire, the future of my career, how that's going to pan out and how it's going to end one day. These are all things that are a bit of a minefield for someone who's 35, because I've never had to plan for the future before like this. That's why I've created this video, because this is how I'm approaching it, and it might just help one more person, especially in the CF community. Now, I'm a big advocate for being self-aware, having goals, having lists of goals, having processes in place to how you're going to go and achieve those goals. But some of these goals, like pension, retirement, savings, even getting a mortgage, I know it sounds crazy as a 35-year-old, but genuinely I've just rented. I've never thought about owning my own property, really, because who knows how long you're going to be around for, right? So this mindset shift is absolutely huge. And for a lot of people who are connected to someone with CF, you might grasp bits of it, but it's only when you live through the experience that, this is your mindset that has to change now. Now, luckily for people who are much, much younger than me, sort of children who are in their infancy, the outlook is great. To be honest, compared to my outlook that I had when I was born in 1987, the outlook is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, and that is amazing. Absolutely, I couldn't be happier. But for the people who are slightly older, maybe even late teens, I'd say it's different, because you have to have that mindset shift. The world of cystic fibrosis is changing, almost on a weekly basis, but for us who've been around a little bit, it's tough. It's really tough. It's amazing on one hand, and on the other hand, you're like, I need to focus on this stuff now, which I've never even looked at before. Can be really overpowering and quite daunting, if I'm honest, even for someone like me who, I've built up my resilience. I'm mentally very tough, but even for me, I look at it and go, I don't want to look at that yet. But chances are, if I keep putting off, one day it's going to come and I've got nothing. I've got no plan, and that's not really how I want to live. It certainly hasn't been the way I've lived through challenges, so I definitely don't want it to be the case in real life. So a few things that I am doing is being a lot more focused. And when I say a lot more focused, what I actually mean is physically writing down 2 or 3 things to focus on at any one time. Now, if you have got CF and you're watching this, or you're a parent of someone with CF and you're watching this, or a relative, you probably had roughly the same experience in terms of, I want to go and do 1,000,001 things. I want to go and do all of these things to the best of my ability, and I'm not going to allow anything to stop me doing everything I want. The difficulty with that is that it's like a ticking time bomb. You can only do so much, and you can only give so much energy to one particular thing if you've got 1,000,000 things on that list. So what I've tried to consciously do is say, hey, there are 2 or 3 areas over the next 12 months that I really want to focus on. I know I'm good at setting goals for 12 months, so that's one of my strengths. I'm just going to focus on the next 12 months, just on these 2 or 3 things. But the knock-on effect of these goals, as in they're very different goals to what I've set before, the knock-on effect isn't just for the next 12 months to be great. It's actually for the next 5 years, 10 years to be great. So for me personally, it's just refocusing that, and that includes work. I've been self-employed for many years now, and it's quite a tough time at the moment with cost of living crisis and everything else. But I've looked at retraining to do something else that gives me more security long term, because being an athlete, it depends what you're doing over the next 12 months, whether you're going to get sponsorship, whether you're going to get support, whether you can pay the bills. You know, it's quite stressful. Being someone who is self-employed, where you're starting January the 1st almost from scratch every year, is quite a stressful environment to be in. And it's almost like you're in survival mode quite a lot, especially when times are tough. So for me, it's like, okay, well, what's my skill set as a coach? Now, as a performance coach, I coach lots of people around goals. I could look to build that up, which I'm currently doing, but also long term, you know, because a good coach, clients leave. If you're a good coach, clients won't stay with you for 10 years. They shouldn't anyway. You know, they should stay with you for maybe 12 months, possibly 2 years, depending on their situation. But ultimately, they should be coming back in, you know, for a top up every 6 months or so. So the pipeline to that business, you have to constantly build that pipeline. And now, today's day and age, there's so many coaches. The market is really saturated with people on social media saying, hey, you know, I'm a coach, this is what I charge, and they undercut you, and everyone then devalues your time because you're more expensive. So there's lots of things to look at there. But one of the goals is to retrain. Now, for me personally, it's to retrain or certainly train as a financial advisor. Because for me, what better thing to throw myself into where I haven't had a handle on it, you know, in the previous years. So I know how money works, you know, I'm good at going out and getting sponsorship. I'm good at building relationships because I'm really passionate about genuinely helping people. And I think if you start with that, you know, you're always onto a good thing. So I'm very good at that. But I've never had to think about savings. I've never had to think about a pension scheme, or I've never had to think about investing money. I've never had to think about, you know, retirement planning or, you know, anything like that, to be perfectly honest with you. So I want to learn. I want to learn how those systems work and how I can help other people in those areas, as well as helping myself short term. So for me, it just seems like a really perfect fit. So that's one of the focus areas this year, is to get qualified as a financial advisor. I want that to happen within the next 9 months, potentially 12 months. But what that does to me, for me, is it gives me some security as well. It gives me security in knowing that, you know, yes, it's going back to potentially being employed, which is one of the biggest obstacles that I have right now in my mind, is that I've been my own boss for the last 9 years-ish. So it's going to be quite a tough challenge going back into potential employment. But for me, it's really crucial that I have some security long term. Again, something that I haven't had to even think about in the past. So that's a massive shift. So focusing on 2 or 3 things for me, even over the last 6 months, has been really, really beneficial. The second thing is circle. So being who I am and what I've done with challenges, world records and charity work and things like that, I've always had a lot of people reach out for my support. And I've always wanted to give as much support to every single individual that reaches out. Now, in the early days, that was easy. It was fine because there were like 5 people that would reach out to me. But as my profile has grown, or as I've sort of become a bit of a name within the CF world, you know, the people reaching out just becomes huge. And every week I get 30 or 40 requests a week for time. And a lot of that time is for me to go out speaking at events, which is part of my job. But it's taking up a lot of my time. And the difficulty with being someone who wants to help people is that you find it hard to say no. So I've had to sort of train myself in getting good at saying no in a nice way, so they understand where I'm coming from, but also in a way that helps me look at the people around me who can support my journey, I can support their journey a lot closer. Because for me, I've always been pretty brutal with my friendship circle, always. I think I always will be, because it has served me, and I think it will serve me long term as well. But I implore you to have a look at who is in your circle, who is helping you with your goals, who can you help with their goals as well. It has to be, that's one of the transactions that has to be equal. But if you're looking at planning long term and you need to shift your mindset from 12 months to 10 years potentially, you need to think about, okay, well, who are the people I want in my life long term now? Not who can help me over the next 12 months. Who can help me long term? Who do I want those real friendships to be with? Who do I want around me? Potentially if I'm going to have kids, who do I want to be the godparents? Who do I want there, to be there for support? So there's that as well. So focus number one. Number two is thinking about who's in my circle, my support network. And number three really is more about being, trying to shift from short-term to long-term thinking is really tough. And the one thing I will say is I'm always full of gratitude. I'm always full of, that gratitude that helps me internally as well. But I'm so grateful for the tough ride that I've had. And don't get me wrong, it's not been tough all my life. It's not been tough every year. But those tough challenges that I've had with my health over the years, and they've only been 5 or 6 times really, 2 or 3 times where it's been, really, really serious, including my mountain bike crash last year, which was nothing to do with CF. But it's allowed me to look at the risks that I naturally take. And it's allowed me to go, okay, I still want to take risks, I still want adrenaline, but how can I get that without potentially risking my whole life? Because it has been a case of, not being too morbid, but if I'm gonna die, I don't want it to be from CF. I want it, and it's okay if it's from mountain biking, it's okay if it's from riding motorbikes, that's okay. I'm okay with that. As long as it's not CF, I'm okay. So that shift of mindset from short term to long term, it's really important that I keep that gratitude for the journey, for the tough journey. I do believe that youngsters today, even though I think, youngsters in society, it's quite tough with technology to keep up, and that's a tough time for them. But actually, from a health perspective, they've never been in a better environment. The challenges and the tribulations that, we have had as this generation with CF and older, are far more, I don't want to say serious, but they're certainly tougher challenges that the younger generation are going to face with CF. And that is amazing. Like, that is honestly, I cannot tell you, if you're a young parent with a child with CF, the future looks so much brighter than it did when we were kids. I mean, there's just not a comparison. There's really not a comparison. So, but I'm still grateful for my journey. And regardless of what the future looks like, whether it's over the next 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, whatever that might look like, I'm still grateful for all the tough stuff that I've had to deal with personally. And I think everyone should be, because it forms who we are. It helps us to build resilience. But what it does do, obviously, for the younger generation is it allows them to step more outside their comfort zone in doing normal things. So those 3 things is keeping the gratitude to try and shift, the mindset. So it's not like, oh my God, there's so much I need to plan for, I don't know how to do it, and it's going to be a mess. It's more like, no, be grateful for where you are. You've built the resilience to be able to tackle these challenges, so you can do it. And it's that self-belief then that comes from the gratitude, which is really, really key for personally for my future, but I believe also everyone else's future, certainly within the CF world. So those are 3 areas that I'm currently really focusing on in terms of the focus, 2, having that circle, that supportive circle. Who's going to be there? Who can I support? But who's going to be there long term is really important. And number 3, having that gratitude that has built the resilience from the challenges to go and attack these challenges and plan for the future. So I hope this has helped. I haven't edited this video. This is as is because I want it to be really real. So apologies if I've if I've stumbled on my words like I just did. But I want this is probably going to turn into a video series, so I want these videos to be really, you know, true and raw, as if we were having a conversation, because I think that's really important. Feel free to drop any questions or comments in the comment section below, with your thoughts on what the future looks like for CF and how you've potentially looked at changing your mindset if you are in the same kind of position that I am. So have a good day. Thank you for watching, and if you do appreciate this video, click like, click subscribe, and even better, subscribe to my Patreon account.